In a world overrun by neocon warmongers, and with the mass media in the pockets of the cabal elite, there remains one bastion of truth amidst the confusion. One beacon of light shining through the murky fog of spin and Islamophobic propaganda. That's right, it's the MP Radio Security Council. The final frontier in the fight for freedom and fairness. I give you the Security Council.
أبدا لن نحيد أبدا لن نحيد أبدا لن نحيد عن خطى الإيمان. دربنا درب قويم دربنا درب قويم بالهدى القرآني. أبدا لن نحيد أبدا لن نحيد أبدا لن نحيد عن خطى الإيمان. دربنا درب قويم دربنا درب قويم بالهدى القرآني. سائر في طريق.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You are listening to Middle Path Radio, and this is the Security Council. I'm your host for tonight, inshallah. Brother Ahmed here with you all. I hope everybody is enjoying their evening. I know it's an odd weeknight, but that's just the way we have to do things here on Middle Path Radio. With me in the studio is a special guest, actually. Special because we haven't heard much from him over the recent couple of months. Mr. Producer, I want to give you a warm assalamu alaikum as well.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
How are you doing? And what's happening with the rest of our permanent members? Where is the rest of the permanent members? Do you have any idea?
Christmas vacation?
Astaghfirullah. You are joking. I know Desmond Two Guns Tutu never to be celebrating Christmas, even though he's some sort of a free figure and role model for a lot of Christians. And of course, so Desmond, if you're listening, you feel free to call in tonight, okay, and give us your thoughts. I know you are very busy on official business, as I understand, brokering peace in the Middle East, and and I'm not too sure about Robert the Beast Mugabe tonight. Robert the Beast Mugabe is actually on location, and we are going to have to use a satellite phone to contact him. Again, as you know, he's quite the military man on all sorts of expeditions. Recently, he brought with him one of his general.
I found out his name, by the way.
Who you found the general's name?
His name, I've got a name.
The silent bloke from
John Rambo.
Week. John Rambo. Okay, so John Rambo. He's a man of very few words, but that's not why people are tuning into the Security Council tonight. Yes, the permanent members are away on business tonight, but you still have myself, Brother Ahmed, and with me, of course, we have Brother Ubaid, our producer. And we'll be going through three main agendas tonight. Number one, the first agenda off the bat will be the East London Mosque issue that I think those of you who are on social media would have no doubt come across, because it's created quite a flurry of excitement on social media, if I can even describe it as that. After we cover the East, I would like to say actually on that point that we have two very special guests who will be speaking to us on air tonight. We have one of the brothers who was involved in the Twitter conversation, or who initiated the Twitter conversation, Brother Majid Freeman, an aid worker and community activist who is also featured on many other interviews on mainstream media. Brother Majid will be joining us. But before Brother Majid speaks to us, we will be speaking to Brother Salman Farsi from the East London Mosque, and we'll be seeing if we can get some clarity and context behind what happened, and see if we can get to the bottom of things. Inshallah, we can hear, if there are two sides to the story, we can hear both sides of the story, if that is even the case. So without any further delay, I want to go to also two other agendas. We'll be talking about the rise of Islamophobia. There is a typo there for those of you brothers and sisters who received our promo. It should say rise of Islamophobia. And lastly, we'll be talking about a very important matter discussed by politicians, MPs, and parliamentarians for the past few weeks, and that is the question of whether to bomb Syria or not to bomb Syria. So, brothers and sisters, do call us today, okay, or tweet at us as well. The number is 07 477 080 248. That's 07 477 080 248. Alternatively, like I said, you can contact us on Twitter. It might be good maybe if we could try and open up a poll on Twitter, but without making things complicated, let us know your thoughts, okay? Hashtag Security Council, all right, at Middle Path Radio. That's our handle, at Middle Path Radio, one word, and let us know whether you think the UK should bomb Syria or not. And you can add your thoughts and views as to why you take that view, whatever that view may be. Okay, so brothers and sisters, again, the number is 07477 080 248, and our Twitter handle is at Middle Path Radio, one word. And those of you who might not be able to catch us live, then and that means you're probably not listening to us on the app called Mixlr, Mixlr, that's available on both the Android and iOS app stores. Okay, download that to listen to us live, and obviously check out our YouTube channel, because we'll be uploading this show and every other show from Middle Path Radio for you to catch up on. That's YouTube. Okay, go to our Middle Path Radio YouTube account. So, East London Mosque. I believe we have some guests waiting. While we call them, we're going to be actually putting them on in the background. Try and keep the fader down for us. And I'm going to actually get them on the line. While in the meantime, just give a quick background so that brothers and sisters, those of you who have been living under a rock the last week or so, get a rough background as to what happened. So I understand that the Parliament recently decided to set up a Home Affairs Select Committee, and they were inviting a number of different organizations from across the Muslim community to actually come in and give what they were referring to as evidence regarding the agenda of extremism. I understand MCB was there, Cage was there, other organizations that I don't very much think highly of, like Inspire by Sarah Khan, they were also there. I understand even Baroness Warsi, Saida Warsi, she was also invited to speak at this select committee. And of course, the East London Mosque was also invited. Now, recently, I think the recording, or the text recording, or people like to call it the transcript, was put up, made available to the public of the entire conversation that was taking place, the questions and answers that were, being conducted by the Home Affairs Select Committee. But it came to light very recently on Twitter that some members of the community, or some social media goers, namely Majid Freeman and many of his followers, and quite a large number, I have to say. I've spoken to brothers outside of social media, and a lot of people are taking interest in this subject. You'll be asking me now, why? What's the big deal? What did anybody say that's piqued everybody's interest? Well, that's the reason why we've invited Brother Salman, who I believe is on the line with us, to inshallah shed some more light on this issue, so we can get some clarification with regards to the statements that were made. I understand Brother Majid actually put out a tweet very early into this conversation, saying that he understood, or the word is, I can't give you the exact quote now from off the top of my head, word is that East London Mosque reports suspicious brothers to the police for extremism, or something along those lines. I'm sure Brother Salman will correct me. Is there any truth to this? I have some excerpts from the transcript in front of me. We will be looking at that shortly. But let's take Brother Salman, who is patiently waiting on the line while we speak. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Salman. Can you hear me at all? Jazakallah khair. Again, I know we called you on very short notice, but we really, really do appreciate you giving us your time. In any case, Brother Salman, if you would just like to break us into this story as to what actually unfolded, so our listeners can get a better idea of the actual issue.
Okay, so on Friday evening, I think there was a misunderstanding by Brother Majid Freeman from one of my comments made at the Home Affairs Select Committee. And that was then basically used to kind of make numerous accusations at the mosque. One where it was said that the mosque was reporting brothers, quote brothers that we find suspicious to the police. And that was like completely untrue. If anyone has a look at the answers that I gave to the Home Affairs Select Committee in October, the question that was asked of me was, what would you do if individuals were up to no good? So it wasn't about individuals that you think are extremists, individuals that you find suspicious. It was specifically about individuals that are up to no good, and if they were in our institution. So up to no good, you could take a lot of meaning from that word, and so we would report any individuals that were up to no good in our institution, and we've done that in the past. So individuals that have abused our staff, that make threats on visitors and so on, we'll happily report them to the police. Just as if you came home and you found a burglar in your house, you'd call the police. So we have no qualms with doing that. But however, we are not, as a mosque and centre, we're not sitting there reporting people that we find suspicious of extremism to the police. That's not the case. As the largest, mosque and centre serving the Muslim community, alhamdulillah, we cater for a whole load of wide and varied views. Some of them sometimes we don't agree with,
sure,
but we can kind of tolerate. Doesn't mean just because you don't agree with someone, you go report them for something.
I understand. Okay, so what would you say to this statement? I think a lot of people that I've spoken to have been airing this particular view, and they were saying that if you look at the actual context surrounding the question and the answer that were given, they would say that it's quite clear that organizations like ELM, MCB, and Cage or others were invited really to discuss the matter of extremism. And people are saying that the question was quite clear in the sense that it was asking about extremism and extremists, and would you report extremists?
It's not there in the question whatsoever. So anyone who watches the video or the transcript will see that Keith Vaz, who's the chairman of the Home Affairs Committee, he was asking about individuals up to no good. Now, whether he meant extremists or otherwise, that's open to debate.
Sure.
And individuals can go ask Keith Vaz.
Sure,
what meaning I took from that is individuals who are up to no good. So that means a lot of, it could mean a number of things.
This is why we've, of course, got you on air so that you can, say this yourself, and we don't have to speak on your behalf.
I'm happy to clarify that, obviously.
Jazakallah khair.
As an institution, we have nothing to hide. And we understand that in this case there's been a misunderstanding, but anytime individuals do feel like they need to approach the mosque, ask the masjid any questions, our doors are always open to the community, and everyone should be able to approach us. I think one thing that we need to remind ourselves of is the Islamic etiquette. When if an accusation is made against individuals or an institution and so on, it's our Islamic duty to first go verify that information. So had anybody done that in this instance last Friday, if that was done, then we wouldn't have seen some of these negative WhatsApp messages going around and Twitter messages and so on.
Now, in fairness, if we look at the transcript, and I have some of the quotes here from the actual, answers that were given and the question that were asked. I think you were asked initially about, and you made some strong points about the prevent strategy and how, the security services were probably embedding spies and informants inside the congregation of the mosque. Of course, you said, look, that was a comment that the journalist had given, a figure that the journalist had given you, and you distanced it from it being your own personal opinion. But you were saying essentially that, that's not the only way in which we can deal with this issue of extremism. Putting
my issue, my thing here is that communities, if security services or the police have, need to keep an eye on an individual or track an individual, etc. Why is it this is the only way? Why is our communities not involved in helping an individual that may be deemed a radical or an extremist? Where's the engagement from the community's part? As you would know, the prevent strategy calls on institutions and public bodies and so on to spy on Muslims. It demonizes our communities. We don't need to have we don't need to play any part of this. But we need a change in approach.
Yeah, and I hope you won't mind me coming back to the question of the perceived misunderstanding here. I think to be fair, again, looking at the question, you were referring to informants, or the chair was asking you about the statement that informants are embedded in the mosque congregation, and you said no, that's not your own particular view. Somebody had passed that information to you. But again, if we follow the general thread of this conversation, it goes immediately on to ask you, and if I were to quote here, the chair asks, so would you be prepared if you found out that there were groups in the mosque who were up to no good to go and inform the police about it? And of course you'd said absolutely, and the chair asks without a question.
So if I present you a hypothetical situation, let's say groups of individuals were sitting in our masjid planning a terrorist attack.
Yeah, Brother Salman, I think we agree on the point on reporting crimes, things like violence, theft, robbery. I don't think anybody has any qualm over that issue, and I'm sure Majid will speak for himself when he comes on air. But what I just wanted to go, if I could just finish this little quote here. It says here, absolutely, that I have done that in the past. How many times have you done it in the last year? And you go on to say that it was a couple times. Okay. And of course, I think this is the wording of contention. Allow me to just go to the end of that. It says, I've done that a couple of times where I have had doubts about an individual, things that they have said or actions that they have done. And then the next question immediately after that is from Mr. David Winnick. And he says, I take it from the answer that you have just given that you and your colleagues recognize that we have a danger of acute terrorism. He goes on a little bit in that question, and you do reply by saying, indeed, that you do. So it looks from there, the context appears to be referring to the question and the problem of extremism and terrorism. Therefore, people have understood that question from the chair. Would you report people who are up to no good from your mosque? And you replied, absolutely. It seems, given that context, that you were asked about extremism and your response was about extremists in the mosque. But you've clarified tonight to say that that's not what you understood when you were asked that question. And
no. And that's why I cited two examples. And those two examples relate to a physical attack on myself, which was outside the masjid in March. And the other incident was when a visitor to the masjid was verbally abused by an individual who was inside the masjid.
Sure.
Now, those are the two incidents, that I cite.
No, Jazakallah khair for clarifying that. I think what would happen is people would be unsatisfied. I know a lot of our listeners would take me to account on this, and they would say, well, you had Brother Salman at your behest today. I should have asked you this question. So I'm going to take the opportunity and maybe the liberty to say, that was a question then. It was asked, you understood it to be asking you about ordinary crimes or what we consider to be regular crimes. And I think nobody has any qualm with that. I think anybody assaulted a member of staff there, we would report anybody, any place of employment would report them to the police. Of course, there's a whole question about, I know some brothers did air this view, and perhaps it's a valid view as well, that some matters can be dealt in-house and without often or easily quickly resorting to calling the police. But I think nobody's going to say that, if it is an important issue and a serious matter like assault against staff, then of course it does become a police matter. I
just want to clarify one thing that I've noticed. If someone physically attacks you, will you personally have doubts about that individual afterwards?
It depends what that means. I mean, I wouldn't doubt that they attacked me and that they meant good intention towards me.
So doubts about the individual, the person. Let's say you engage in a debate with the individual, it flares up, and then they physically attack you. Would you not have doubts about that individual?
What I would do is, for sure, Brother Salman, taking the hypothetical scenario, I probably wouldn't doubt them of being an extremist or anything like that. What I would do, however, is take what's necessary measure to protect myself and to de-escalate the conflict, make sure that the situation is under control. If I can't speak sense, or these are individuals that cannot be reasoned with, and it became a question of violence against my person, then of course we would perhaps then resort to, in the immediate sense, because of immediate danger and threat to one's safety, I may have to resort to calling the police. Do you see? Yeah. So I think what the question is, of course, and I think you've clarified, the reason why you called the police was not because you assumed that they were extremists, but it was because of the fact that they had attacked you, and that was the reason why you'd called the police. It wasn't because they were extremists.
Yes.
Okay, Jazakallah khair, Brother Salman. I understand that the masjid does not have a policy on reporting Muslims and their worshippers to prevent all the police if they consider them to be extremists. Is that correct? Yeah?
Absolutely not. That's correct.
Jazakallah khair. So I think these are the kind of clarifications I think a lot of people have got confused about over this recent, let's say, the Home Affairs Select Committee questioning. And I really appreciate you coming on air to really, do our level best to put set the record straight. What I'm going to do, Brother Salman, is again thank you one more time for coming and speaking with us. And now I'm going to have to go and move on to our second guest for tonight's show. And I know he's been listening, so he'll have things to comment. It's a shame that we couldn't get you all to speak to each other directly with one another, and because of some hardware limitations on our side. So inshallah, again, we hope to speak with you soon, Brother Salman. We thank you again for speaking with us. Barakallahu feek. Look after yourself. Assalamu alaikum. So, brothers and sisters, we're going to go on a very short break before we bring our next guest onto the air. I hope he is still waiting. I did say he was only for 5 minutes, but it's taken a lot longer than I'd imagine. Again, I apologize to you, Brother Majid. I know you're waiting. You're busy actually doing some aid work as we speak. I know about that. Let's see if we can get him on air straight after this break, and we can take it from there. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brothers and sisters, welcome back. You are listening to Middle Path Radio, and this is the Security Council. You've just been listening to Brother Salman Farsi of the East London Mosque, who himself was the one who was giving the answers to the Home Affairs Select Committee, over which some questions arose as to what he had said and what the masjid policy was. Alhamdulillah, he came and he gave some clarification there. And we have also our second guest for tonight, Brother Majid Freeman, who is waiting on the line as we speak. Inshallah, as soon as we give him the cue, he will go on air. Brother Majid Freeman, as I'm sure you all are aware, he has been on Middle Path Radio before. He is a prolific aid worker and a humanitarian aid volunteer. He regularly goes abroad with aid material, help for the needy, and especially with regards to Syria. Most of you will remember him as being the brother who was on the same convoy as Alan Henning, and Brother Majid was making appeals to have Brother Alan Henning released from captivity. So we have Brother Majid today, who was the one who actually put the tweet out on social media. And I'm going to let Brother Majid, inshallah, give his take on this. Brother Majid, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Jazakallah khair. Everything seems to be A-OK right now. Just very quickly, we've given an introduction. I'm sure you listened to what Brother Salman had to say. How would you generally respond to that? And I will give you, inshallah, enough time as well, because I did exceed the time that I spoke with Brother Salman. I'll give you enough time, inshallah, to say your piece as you see fit. There's an ambulance in the background, is it? One of your own one, is it?
No, we're just offloading some aid at the moment.
MashaAllah.
Some alarm or something going off in the background.
La bas, inshallah. Go on, brother Majid. Tell us about this incident with the Home Affairs Select Committee.
Okay, what happened was on Friday, and Juma, I came across an article. Let me go to the other side. The salams and keep going off. Sorry about it.
That's okay. We understand that we did call you at a time while you're busy with the aid work. So our listeners, inshallah, be aware that, of course, there will be some background sounds. Brother Majid, you may continue, inshallah.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah. What happened on Friday was on Juma, I come across an article. The Home Office, from the Home Office website, there's a transcript of East London Mosque when they were called in regards to the counter-extremism. I know Cage, Muslim Council of Britain, MEN, and a lot of other Muslim organizations also got invited. So I was reading the transcript because someone posted it up on Twitter, people to the police. So I found it very strange because shocking actually that from my interpretation of from what I read was that they may have been reporting people because the conversation was about extremism and reporting, tackling extremism, and then the chair asked about, okay, what would you do? How would you tackle this? And the response was that we've reported people already in the past, something along that line. I can't remember the exact wording right now. So what I took from there was that they were referring to reporting people to extremism, and I think that's what most people will come to the same conclusion.
And I'll be honest, I myself understood it that way too.
Yeah, that's how most people read it, because that's how it comes across, and also the discussion is about countering extremism. So that's what we thought that Brother Salman was referring to. So I put up a tweet. I tagged East London Masjid to ask that is this true, and got a response back saying this is not true, this is not the case, and where is the source?
Right.
So I shared the article.
So they initially denied it.
Yeah, initially they denied it. Maybe they didn't know
what you were referring to. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe they didn't know what I was referring to, because from their point of view, they were never talking about countering extremism anyway. So that's why they may have been confused and not knowing what I was talking about. So then I shared the article. Before I even got a chance to share the article, once the thread had started, I noticed that before I even got a chance to respond, a lot of others had already responded and shared the article, saying that it's referring in this article down here, according to the transcript, you have been reporting people. So you're saying you haven't, so what? So which one is the truth? Then I shared my article, I shared it, and they said that there was a misunderstanding. By this point, I noticed that it had escalated quite a bit in the afternoon, and a lot of people were tweeting them asking, can you confirm, can you deny, what have you been doing, so and so. And a lot of people were getting blocked. According to the timeline, a lot of the people that were asking questions for verifications were getting blocked.
Blocked by who?
By the
East London Mosque Twitter account. Right.
Yeah. So I think when the people were getting blocked, they were talking about it on their timeline, on their profiles, saying that East London Mosque have just blocked us for asking XYZ.
Okay.
For clarification, I think this led to more people picking up on the story, and the Brother Salman he clarified afterwards that they have never ever reported anyone for extremism, and they were actually referring to something else. And
he clarified today that they don't report anybody for extremism. They don't have a policy on reporting anyone. They're not required, and they do not do so currently.
Yeah.
But I think I did ask him that from the transcript itself, when I'd read it as well, and when this story broke, and obviously you were one of the first to put it out there, it did appear very clearly that this Parliamentary Home Affairs Select Committee was sitting with people to discuss the matter of extremism. And the question was quite, apparent to me that this was a question asking if the mosque would report extremists, and whether not just the mosque. I think they asked Cage if they would support the police's efforts, and they asked everybody really the same question: do you guys support us in our efforts against extremists? And I personally, of course, I take issue with the very definition of the word, or the undefined nature of the word extremist. But I think most people understood that there was a question asking you about extremists and reporting them, to which you'd replied yes. But today it seems Brother Salman has made it clear that that's not how he understood it. So do you think that in hindsight, had Brother Salman understood the question the way we did, that his answer would have been quite different on the day?
Yeah, I'm assuming it would have been different, because he said that they've not only did he say that they wouldn't report anyone to extremism, but he's saying that they have never ever done so in the past either. And he's clarified that openly. They wrote another post late on in the evening about with a statement saying that he's clarifying this. And the problem with reporting people for extremism is, or being asked to report people for extremism or people who are behaving suspicious, because first of all, how do you define whether someone is behaving suspicious? Yeah, and the second thing, what is extremism? What is extremism? What according to whose definition? Everyone has different definitions. According to an article I read earlier today, one of the schools, they were talking about if children are upset by what they see in the mainstream media or upset by foreign policy, this is one of the signs for a child to be radicalized and be heading towards extremism.
That's right, and that's actually one of the stories that we want to cover tonight. That's actually one of the stories we want to cover tonight. But you're more than welcome to give us a good taste of the reality for Muslims in the UK when they're being accused of extremism.
Yeah, so now it's come to a situation where they want to bomb our brothers and sisters, and if we even get upset about it, our brothers and sisters being bombed in other lands, innocent children being bombed, if we are upset about this, then this could mean that we are potential extremists.
So I know your response is obviously still related to the original agenda that we're discussing, because of how do you define extremism and what is an extremist? I think that's something that Muslims across the board, in a united voice, do need to challenge this. And we need to start saying very clearly that holding the personal religious view and position that homosexuality is prohibited and is a sin, this is not indicative of extremism. I think recently, what's the MMA fighter who's made his views quite openly?
Boxer,
Tyson Fury, that's right. Sorry, he's a boxer. Excuse me. There you go. My ignorance on the sports world.
He's a champion now.
He's a champion now. So, I mean, he's made very similar remarks about homosexuality, but he's not being tarnished with the brush as Muslims are, and being branded an extremist. Why is that? Is it because he's white? Is it because he's a non-Muslim? I think that's really the subject of our next agenda. But before we go to that, Brother Majid, what about the comment Brother Salman said about Islamic etiquettes? How would you respond to that remark, that if Muslims have some confusion or want some clarification, then there is a Islamic way, or there is a proper way of raising this issue? What would you say in response to that?
Of course, I understand where he's coming from. Totally understand where he's coming from. But what it is, when a Muslim public figure or a Muslim organization, especially a reputable Muslim organization that represents the Muslim community, if they are seen to make certain remarks, or they will naturally be questioned by the Muslim public, the people who they represent. They will naturally ask them questions about it.
Right.
So from this transcript, it seems very clear. There was no indication whatsoever that the conversation may have been referring to anything else apart from countering extremism. So that is why I and many others had asked the question that we did to clarify, and we didn't accuse them of anything. When I asked them the question, I tagged them into the tweet, gave them a chance to respond to it. It wasn't just slander, or I wasn't just ranting for the sake of ranting. It was to clarify. I asked that, is this true? This is what I've been reading. Can you please clarify? And then they later on clarify. So this is accountability. This is naturally expected. This is not just specifically for East London Mosque or for all Muslim organisations. This is normal. This is the way that I work.
And you know, it's a shame.
Even myself, when I make certain remarks,
Sure.
I'm not even a public figure or anything. So even I get questioned over any little thing. Imagine a big organisation like East London Mosque. You can actually expect people to ask questions, especially the local musallis. And I think that's what happened. Some of the people that were asking questions, maybe they may have not gone around the right way to ask questions. Some people may have been upset, angry, let the emotions get the better. However, others were asking genuine questions, and maybe a few people were getting blocked, which led to more people asking questions.
That's right. Yes, I think that probably wasn't the best way of going about doing things, and I'm sure. I think the administrator for the Twitter account probably realized this, understood. They then went about actually unblocking those individuals on Twitter after they realized that this is actually going to make people more upset. Because
a lot of people may have been messaging them at the time. They may have felt like they were under attack. From the very same people who they're trying to represent. So maybe these things happen. Alhamdulillah, everybody learns from it.
Yes, I personally felt that actually those raising the questions and who were worried about, as I was as well, from the statements on the face of it, had raised it in a way that wouldn't be, in my book, considered, un-Islamic in their etiquette. However,
I don't think I think there's no problem in asking questions, clarifying things, and holding people to account. The problem is when you cross the line and you're without any etiquette or disrespecting others. I think that is where the conversation ends before you even starts. Because you're not going to get no genuine response from anyone once you ask questions like that in a disrespectful manner. And but alhamdulillah, I think that I don't see any problems in asking people questions. I think we should be encouraged. We should be encouraged actually. A lot of the times what we find is sometimes like certain Muslim public figures, because we feel so scared to ask questions, and we think no matter what this person or this organization does, they can't be wrong because I love them or they represent me, or I'm from this certain area or this certain group. You may sometimes
and we do love this masjid, and we do love the work that they are doing, and may Allah reward them. But if sometimes something questionable comes, we see, then we should be. If we do love it genuinely, then we would ask them. If we didn't care about the masjid, I think if you didn't care, or if those others who did raise this question on Twitter, if they didn't really care so much about this institution, they probably wouldn't have bothered. They would have just written them off as some sort of a government agency or some sort.
Etc.
That's right.
But this I was referring to not just Islam, I was just speaking generally how people from certain different groups, sometimes they don't question the scholars that they follow when they make certain comments because they feel that it's disrespectful. However, sometimes it's not disrespectful to ask questions in Islam. It's disrespectful to be disrespectful. If you're clarifying things, there's not really an issue because everybody could make mistakes. Even the scholar that you love or whoever, even he is capable of making mistakes. So there's no harm in asking questions. So it's just when you be disrespectful, I think.
Jazakallah khair. Brother Majid, I think it's a shame really, because I think what Brother Salman said tonight gave us really a better clarification than the short statement that they'd put out, I think, on Twitter, because that I felt didn't really address the whole issue. It addressed one angle of it. I understood maybe they didn't see it that way. But I think tonight, the way Brother Salman gave some answer, and I asked him directly after him saying, look, I understood it in a particular way. I understood the question to be referring to ordinary crimes, and do we report those crimes like violence and assault and stuff like that. And I don't mean to, euphemize it by referring to it as ordinary. But he said, I didn't understand the question to be referring to extremists. I think, when I asked him again to follow that up with, so does the mosque report any extreme? Now that I'm asking you clearly, and he said, no, absolutely not. And we haven't done so, and we don't do so, basically. And I think that's really the kind of clarification that would have been really forthcoming. And I think would have nipped the whole issue in the bud. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, of course, because he clarified on Friday evening as well. And by the time he clarified, we put out another message, and that was the end of it. What we found then was, you get some troublemakers who are just looking for any excuse to attack people online and social media, etc. So Muslims, you get non-Muslims as well, and you get Muslims. So I had a lot of hate messages. I've seen East London Mosque were receiving some hate messages as well. Some people were going over the top. I read a tweet somewhere where someone even referred to East London Masjid as a temple. So this is how you have to be respectful when you're asking questions, because then you don't want to be in the same crowd as others who go completely over the top, and they use any excuse to bash anybody and everybody.
Yeah, in fact, excommunicating them from the religion of Islam.
They're completely going crazy. They were saying that the mosque is a temple. You can't even classify as a mosque, and this is completely bang out of order.
Jazakallah khair. And I'm really glad you made that point. I'm really glad you made that point, Brother Majid, because I think, maybe Brother Salman's remark about Islamic etiquettes in this instance probably does apply, because we can see here brothers going overboard, putting out YouTube video messages, declaring the masjid as a temple. Therefore, those who are worshipping there are engaged in shirk. So I think that's very, very worrying. And that is, and you've just said so, that's really, that's not Islamic. That's not the correct Islamic etiquette. Brother Majid, Jazakallah khair for really giving us your time tonight and really clarifying this. Alhamdulillah, I'm really happy as well to see, people from our community, the masjid, private individuals like yourselves, dealing with this matter in a grown-up fashion. I want to say, may Allah reward all of the parties involved in this, inshallah. Jazakumullahu khair to you. If you got anything else you want to add, Brother Majid? No, barakallah fiqh.
I just wanted to say, Jazakallah khair for having me on. Allah continue blessing you and the team.
Ameen.
To create love in the community and clarify matters rather than continue to trying to ignite the fire even after everything's dead.
Jazakallah khair.
Sorted out.
Brother Majid, Jazakallah, it was our pleasure to have you, inshallah, and hopefully we'll have you on in the near future on Middle Path Radio. Shukran lak again, and I'll let you go. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, brothers and sisters, we've already covered a full hour on tonight's show. Tonight's Security Council has been quite... Actually, I really enjoyed it, to be fair, Mr. Producer. I don't know what you thought of that, and I'm really happy with the outcome. Sure, there may have been things that I could have said better. I'm not sure. You see, I'm not looking at it from outside of the studio. Somebody else listening to the studio may have thought, well, I gave Brother Majid too much time to speak, or maybe I gave Brother from the other end, Brother Salman, too much time to speak, or I didn't give, I wasn't being fair. Allahu Alam, I thought it went really well, and I think both brothers did a smashing job. They seem to be actually on the same page in the end, and I'm really glad to see, alhamdulillah, this sense of mature approach to dealing with issues or any kind of controversies that arise. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for more tawfiq in our community, because we need this unity, especially at this very trying time. Mr. Producer, what do you make of that?
I think things like this need to come out, and it needs to be kind of like ironed out as well, and nip it in the bud, so to speak.
Definitely, and I'm really glad. This is why I take doing this radio program very, very seriously. I come here, we do have a laugh. Alhamdulillah, yes, there's a lot of chitter chatter and banter that goes on between us permanent members of the Security Council. But at the same time, we do want to talk about issues at the heart of the community locally and also globally. And we were going to cover some other issues. Sorry, brother Ubaid, you wanted to add
I was just
something?
going to say, I mean, we've only got a few minutes left here, but there was one little issue that's bugging me that we need to talk about.
Hold on, before you go, is it related to this?
It actually is related to this.
Is it
about this temple thing? I want to know what the temple
I
thing
wanted to
is.
talk about that as well.
What's going on there?
I was going to say, brother Abu Halima, if you're listening, brother, yeah, listen, give us your contact details, okay? And in fact, we'll reach out to you on Twitter. And if you want to speak to us and on the air, and people will say we're crazy for taking that risk and putting you on there, but this is a Security Council and anything goes. That's right, you know. So if you're up for it, we'll reach out to you on Twitter, brother Abu Halima, okay? And we want to hear as to why you think that the East London Mosque is a temple and that people are engaged in shirk there, or if the people there are munafiqeen.
That's what he really said. He really said that.
But when you call it a temple, that's the only implication that you can, really extract from that. I mean, what do people do in temple? Do they worship Allah? No, they're doing shirk in the.
So every Friday, 10,000 people are doing shirk. To his clarification,
he said a lot of things over a long time.
Watch this clip.
Yeah, so over a long period of time, not just about East London Masjid, but for that matter. So and you know what it is, brother Abu Halima? I'm really disappointed in you, akhi. For a brother who's been going about saying things like, these guys are temple and al-wala wal-bara and aqidah and all of this kind of thing and unity with the Muslims and disavowal with the non-believers. I was shocked to find out that you were the one, Abu Halima, who handed a spy right into the den, okay, of sisters.
Gift wrapped.
You gift wrapped the spy, and you gave her the tazkiyah. You gave her the endorsement and license to say this is the girl that you guys can now talk openly to in your classes. This is a closed private circle, as far as I understood. Of course, I do not endorse supporting groups like ISIS. All right, but the fact that you implanted this spy on your say so, the sisters took her in. And then now they're exposed, okay? And the fact that now there are arrests that are in the pipeline. I don't know if they have already been arrested, okay? But I understand that they've lost the premises from which they can carry out this circle. Now I know, of course, I've already said that I don't agree with maybe supporting ISIS or advocating for any violence. I don't think they advocated for any particular violence, but they did show some support for ISIS. And I think most Muslims would still sympathize with the ladies' sentiment in having a yearning for a Muslim government, okay, that lives according to Islamic, rules and regulations. I think everybody respects that concept of caliphate. But and I think the fact that it seemed like there were a lot of little children there. It was like a women's group get together for Muslim women to, spend time together, get to know each other. And there was kids in a environment where they were felt safe and so on and so forth. To see that kind of initiative has now been shut down because of your shoddy, bumbling, referrals, brother Abu Halima. It's rich coming from you. Are
we talking about the same Abu Halima?
We're talking about the same Abu Halima.
The Spider-Man roof-to-rooftop Abu Halima.
I don't know about the Spider-Man, but yeah, he's the rooftop Abu Halima.
Rooftop, okay, right, okay.
He's the same guy. So, brother Abu Halima, if you are listening, feel free to contact us on our Twitter account. You do have our number. That's 07477 080 248. And you're more than welcome to speak to our listeners, inshallah. Maybe we misunderstood you, just like some misunderstood East London Mosque. And so you can make your case here, brother. You can lay down your evidences as to why you think the East London Masjid is a temple of shirk. And we'd be very happy to have you, actually. It will be a first, I assure you. And I can give you assurances that I won't be inviting any spies to listen in on your conversation
or gift wrap them,
and so you ain't gonna get busted or anything like that. You can call me from a secure location, no problem. So don't you worry about that, brother Abu Halima. Enough of that, inshallah. So, in fact, I'm just going to do a unilateral one because the other permanent members ain't here. Jango of the week has to go to Brother Abu Halima on 2 counts because of gift wrapping a spy and selling out those sisters. I mean, as far as I knew, selling people out, I'm not saying this is about you, Brother Abu Halima, but selling people out on purpose. I know you didn't do it on purpose, but selling people out on purpose can be a sign of a hypocrite. So you should be very careful when you pointing fingers at East London Mosque, because I think, especially after that, was it the Panorama or some other program on channel whatever 4, you definitely helped shut down a Islamic circle, a women's group. I mean, we don't have enough women's services in the Muslim community. Now, thanks to you, we have even less. And so you're more than welcome to come, Brother Abu Halima, inshallah. We'll speak with you very, very soon. I wanted to talk about the bombing of Syria, and I wanted to talk about other agendas tonight, but really we don't have the time to talk about that. So I'm going to say again, Jango of the week goes to Brother Abu Halima. You are in the Hall of Shame, especially for declaring a masjid that is quite a reputable masjid, a temple of shirk, and also for selling out a sisters group by gift wrapping a spy into their very midst. So without any further delay, Brother Ubaid, have you got any last words? Do you disagree with my unilateral appointment of Brother Abu Halima as Jango of this week?
No, I second that.
You second that. I'm glad we are on the same page. So without any further delay, we see you, brothers and sisters, next week, every Tuesday at approximately 8:15 to 8:30 on Middle Path Radio. This was the Security Council. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
In a world overrun by neocon warmongers, and with the mass media in the pockets of the cabal elite, there remains one bastion of truth amidst the confusion. One beacon of light shining through the murky fog of spin and Islamophobic propaganda. That's right. It's the NP Radio Security Council, the final frontier in the fight for freedom and fairness. I give you the Security Council.
أبدا لن نحيد أبدا لن نحيد أبدا لن نحيد عن خطى الإيمان دربنا درب قويم دربنا درب قويم بالهدى القرآني أبدا لن نحيد أبدا لن نحيد أبدا لن نحيد عن خطى الإيمان دربنا درب قويم دربنا درب قويم بالهدى القرآني سائرون في طريق الحق يا جند الله.